I'm not even on the right agenda. Okay, it's now 10 a.m. We're going to call the meeting to order. The notice of the meeting was properly posted on February 12th, 2024. We have all three districts present, Joe Blau, Jessica Clayton, and Taylor. We'll start with number one, the discussion and possible action regarding approval of minutes of January 25th and February 6th. We have a motion. Second. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Okay, number two is the discussion and possible action regarding the selection of February 2024 BOCC Employees of the Month. Karen Kent.
Good morning. You have option A and option B, which are only two options for employees of the month of February, if you would like to approve them.
Do I have a motion?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
The second part of this is the 2023 Employee of the Year, and I've provided you with the documents.
And it's just one employee of the year.
Just one Employee of the Year. Just goes to show we have a lot of good people.
We do. It's a hard decision.
Do you want to come back to this?
Option P.
Did you say P as in peach?
P is in Paul.
Oh, okay. I'm going to do peach, but you can do Paul.
Let me read that option.
You're right, Karen. There are a lot of really, really good folks and tough choices.
It is a tough choice.
What are your thoughts? You make a motion?
My motion would be to select option P as our 2023 Employee of the Year.
I would second that. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't know. Push that button. Sorry.
Okay, so number three is discussion and possible action regarding providing a copy of all the jail trust user emails to the trust prior to the migration of services.
Good
Dane.
morning. Hello. I believe we came to you with this request back in December, and the direction at the time was to go get an estimate of how much labor is involved in pulling this. Our estimate is about 8 hours. It's a lot of names, but so now the question becomes, how do you want to do it? Because we currently don't have an agreement to invoice them for anything, any of the services we're still providing. So do we want to do an agreement for just this particular item? Do we want to do an agreement for, dates back to July 1st for the services we've been providing since the start of the fiscal year? Or,
Yes, inclusive of this new
okay,
request.
And they're aware that you've been
Mhm.
studying. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I think an agreement specific to this
Okay.
request would be the best approach. Is that something you can put together
Mhm.
and then
Yep.
send over to them?
Yeah, I don't know
and
how well we're still tracking labor anymore. considering there was no agreement last year, but
I feel like we could make that recommendation and it would move to BOCC for approval.
Have him draft up the agreement and the BOCC to approve it. Yeah, we should,
okay. Easy enough. All right.
Okay.
they're
Thanks.
aware they should be paying for these services. That's something that the DA's office had indicated needed to be done from the
Correct.
beginning of the trust. So, okay,
So you'll proceed with creating an agreement and then running it across BOCC
Yes.
for approval. Okay.
and then you've answered this, but I want to just make sure.
Right.
We will also retain copies of all of this information.
That's correct. It's just a copy. It's
Yep.
not the
Okay.
actual mailboxes themselves.
Alrighty, thanks, Dane.
All right.
Thank you. Okay, number 4 is discussion and possible action regarding policies, processes, procedures, and status reports related to planning oversight and administration of Oklahoma County's grant program. Hi, Nikki.
Good morning, guys.
I'll make a motion to receive the document.
Okay, I'll second. All in
Thanks.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good morning, guys. So I guess we can start off with the grants watch list, and I can just kind of go through the grants that we have and kind of give you the status on where we are and on them right now. And so with the EECBG energy grant, we really need to get moving on this. We need to start making our energy savings plan. So that means that we really need to start putting together these partnerships between OG&E and us, facilities, and trying to make sure that we have everything in place to create this plan for them so that we can collect the $80,000 for that grant. For the ODMH grant, we were awarded. We had a really, really successful application. Our application was a template for other counties, so we really led the way in that one. And so we're just waiting on a contract on that one. And so we're really happy to work on that one.
Awesome job.
Thank you. Then we are working on right now with the Attorney General opioid abatement grant. We are currently in the RFP process. Proposals are due back today by 3 p.m. And just a heads up, we're probably going to need a special P&G meeting for us to kind of review those proposals and how we want to move forward after they're presented to the BOCC tomorrow. So just a heads up, we're probably going to need a special on that.
Nikki, we received some correspondence from Terry Simonson at the AG's office that they're receiving a lot of requests to extend that deadline, which may allow us a little more time to review these as well. So we'll make sure that you're aware of those timeframes as they move.
Okay, that would be really helpful. The Department of Commerce grant, that was the Workforce Economic Development grant. We were not awarded that one this time, but we're going to work towards getting our application stronger for next year.
And that's the one where we had to have some partners and we kind of got the cart before the horse, if you will.
Yes.
Okay.
So then the air quality grant, that was something that I just found out today we were awarded. They took 9 applicants. We were number 9, and I'm very happy about that. They reduced everyone's ask amount significantly. We asked for $1 million in chargers, and we got 500,000. So that
Excellent.
was a win
That's
for
awesome.
us. So it was super competitive. They gave out a little over $3 million, and we were one of the 9 people that got some of that money. So it was a win for the county on that one.
Great job.
Who all worked on that with you?
Pardon?
Who all worked on that with you?
No one. That was me
Way
in
to go, Nikki.
facilities.
All right.
So
Facilities.
Keith.
Thank you for your efforts.
And then the solid waste program, right now we're up to date. Only one chainsaw was purchased and reimbursed. And we did not have a lot of buzz around that funding. The districts just didn't need what they were offering. And so we had one of the districts get a chainsaw. And so there was that, and it's been reimbursed. So the collaborative juvenile planning grant, we are still waiting on that one. There's not been a no, and there's not been a yes. They have not released any updates on it. I'm hopeful that we are competitively into the next round because we have not been told no at this point. So we're still in the running for that one, and that one's going to be really, really awesome. Which we should know something anytime now. So just anxiously waiting on that, biting my nails for that. Then we have our Department of Education Juvenile Equipment Grant. We were awarded that grant, but I do need to get with JJC and kind of see where they are and what we need to do to make sure that they get the equipment that they need. So I'll get with them, but we were awarded, that was another grant that we were awarded this year. And so that brings us to the Climate Pollution Reduction Act, the CPRG. I'm working on that grant. I've been working on that grant for months and months and months. Right now, where we are, I just recently submitted our survey application with ACOG, because this will be a grant that is part of just a larger grant. And that survey was filled out by me and HOK. That we came up with some strategies that we would like to use. We came up with 3 different strategies, so we're really hopeful on that one. But that one we won't know anything until March, and or probably later. It seems like the awards are being held back longer than the actual deadline dates that they provide for us. They're kind of running long, so that's kind of been the trajectory on all of the grants so far. Um, I did work with MIS for the Oklahoma 911 Management Authority grant. And we worked on that. MIS and I, we worked on that one, and we found out we just didn't have an eligible project for that particular grant. We're going to come back next year and make our application a little bit more applicable for what they're wanting to provide, and kind of making it align with what the county is needing. So we'll work on that one a little bit more. And then lastly, the RAISE grant, that was actually the first grant that I applied for at the county last year. And we did not get it last year. So I kind of talked to Stacy and wanted to kind of get a feel of the land of if this is something that we want to do again. The project that he suggested is the same project that we went for last year, which was Midwest Boulevard. And that it's a great project, but that project is not really an applicable project for what Raise is wanting to do. It's a connector grant, and so it's a grant that it really wants to connect different communities either to a job or to transportation, and we really don't have any shovel ready projects for that particular grant at the moment. So we're probably going to pass on it this year. But that's where we are on the grants thus far. And I provided you guys with an updated upcoming funding. And as you can see, we as a county have almost brought in $3 million for this year. And we have a little over $1 million that have not been awarded yet, that we're kind of still waiting on. So, we've been busy. I've been busy in the grants department over these last couple of months. We've got a lot of momentum, and I'm really proud of where we've come and where we're going. So, if you guys have any questions, I'd love to answer them.
Thank you for all your hard work
Thank you.
and for everyone that helps support. I don't have any questions at this time. Hannah, do you have something to add?
Good morning. I just wanted to give you an update on ours. We've been in contact with Nikki and Chantel with our equipment grant for the kitchen dishwasher. When we went to go to purchase that and make sure we were within all of the purchasing requirements, we realized that Child Nutrition let us know that they would be sending the reimbursement into our account, which is into the general fund, which is not directly to us. So I talked with Cody about it last week, and then my plan, unless you guys have other guidance, would be to go to the BET and just let them know that, give them the heads up that, hey, we can purchase it out of our account, but it'll have to be reimbursed into the general fund. Right now, when we went to actually do the purchase, it's coming in at like $4,000 more than the award. So because obviously, like everything else right now, prices are going up and deliveries going up. So we'll be talking with BET at their next meeting for that. But I just wanted to give you guys a heads up that that's
Okay.
where we're at.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, have any additional, Joe? Anything else for you? Okay. Thank you, Nikki.
All right, thank you.
Okay, number 5 is discussion and possible action regarding policies, processes, procedures, and status report related to the planning, oversight, and administration of Oklahoma County's ARPA funding allocation. Hi, Danielle.
Good morning. I'm going to grab the clicker. All right. It should be relatively brief today. We're just going to go through a couple of action items or updates, really your funding overview, county project status, community project status, little overview of the work plan, and then some updates on the FAQ. The Treasury released a new version of the FAQ. None of it is things that are particularly new. They're things that we saw coming and have updated you on previously, and most of them are within surface transportation projects and things like that the county isn't really funding to begin with, but wanted to make sure you guys were aware of those updates if they're projects that we decide to fund in the future. So overall, the county has 82 approved projects, with 42 of those being fully expended. So more than half of your projects are fully expended. You have authorized 149 million of the total funding amount, and you have obligated to date 60 million, and then expended year to date being the $28 million number, and then remaining unauthorized is 5.7 million. The reason that number is higher than the 2.7 that you have been seeing is related to that $3 million rollback from the benefits. That formal rollback will occur at budget board on Thursday, the 15th, but it will be coming back. And so something to be aware of that number has grown. Since we are in 2024 now, the big number to be thinking about is our obligated amount. So like I said, you have 60 million that has been obligated, which is about 40% of your overall fund. By the end of 2024, we have to have all of your funds obligated. If you don't use them, you lose them. This number will jump substantially when you have your 40 million fully obligated for the mental and behavioral health facility, and then the additional $10 million for revenue replacement. So you'll have a $50 million increase all happening very quickly all around the same time. So you'll see this number substantially grow. This is a quick overview of your project statuses. So as I said, you have 42 projects that are 100% expended. So more than half of your projects being 100% expended. You have 27 projects that are less than 50% expended. So they're in the workings, but haven't reached that halfway point. And then you have 4 that are halfway expended or more. And then you have 9 projects that have not started. We'll talk a little bit about those projects that haven't started, one of them being the behavioral and mental health facility, which you guys are well aware of, and then several of those being improvements that are going to be made over at the detention center. But as we heard yesterday at infrastructure, those are beginning to take more shape. There's some action and some meetings on those items, and so there may not be an expenditure yet, which is why we're tracking them as not started. But the infrastructure team and the owner's rep team are working towards getting them off the ground. And then the other ones to be aware of is your revenue replacement, which we touched on. And then we do have the Juvenile Bureau's COVID testing, but I know that Hannah is working on implementing using those funds towards the other programs that you guys have already authorized within those departments.
On the 2 payroll and benefit
Yes.
items,
Yes.
we've asked periodically where we're at in that process, and so has there been movement?
So technically that would be late at this point. We have allowed for another extension since the timelines we've been giving other teams, such as the owners rep team and the infrastructure team, is the 4/9 deadline. We have extended that to the sheriff's department as well, but it had been originally anticipated that we would have had those numbers by last year, and if not by last year, by February, but now we're looking at closer to April.
And is there a reason that,
That's just what the department has said that they are able to meet.
so given that that hasn't occurred yet and no funds have been obligated, we could pull that back if necessary?
Yeah, absolutely. You could pull that back, and then also just something to be aware of that the remaining funds out of that go towards your general fund. They are not special revenue funds, so anything that comes back will be for the general fund. And then
We did the salary.
yes, the
Reimbursement
SRO
on-
piece has been the secure or school resource officers have that piece has been
So
paid
those
out.
funds that were going directly to them,
They have received.
but
Yes.
those that would come back to the general, we haven't.
Correct. Yep, tracking that perfectly. And then just big numbers at the top for your county projects, 18% of funds utilized. Of the grant amount, that 142 million paid out has been 25.3. You have 4 completed projects of 50% or more, 24 total completed county projects, and then 27 completed less than 50%, and then your 5 not started. So these are items we just wanted to make sure that you're aware of. But again, as we get the revenue replacement and the 40 million for the mental health facility obligated, that will be a large increase in your projects. And then just small things to note, we are working with the infrastructure teams on making sure that we are reviewing project scope and eligibility, and then ensuring that project budgets are staying on track. And then just lastly, we are still waiting on invoices from the network upgrades on the detention center side. We haven't received any additional ones for reimbursement, which means either they haven't expended those funds yet or they are not in need of them at this moment. So we will continue to track that as well. Are there any questions about county projects before we jump into community?
So on the sheriff payroll and benefits that Joe was just asking questions about,
Mhm.
remind me what the total amount is that was it around 14
Yeah,
million?
it's quite a few. Jamie's gonna put my computer is dead.
And remind me of one more time of what's their deadline?
So we have given them another extension until April 9th,
April.
which would be the PNG meeting in April. And what we're waiting for specifically on that documentation, we have it for, as Joe mentioned, the special revenue piece for the SROs. And what we have to have in order to submit to Treasury, this comes from Treasury, it's not the PNG, it's not an Accenture item, it comes from the Treasury Department, is the amount of time spent responding to COVID. So we have to show that because of the COVID pandemic, there was an increase in the level of effort that was required by the Sheriff's Department. And here is how that was tracked. And so it is a little bit of a lift to track those numbers since there wasn't like a clock in code that the county was using during COVID or anything like that, which is not abnormal. But we do have to have that supporting documentation in order to proceed forward. We do have a formula already created since we've done it with the special revenue piece, but now we just need it for the department as a whole. And then I think Jamie is pulling up those numbers.
There you have 2 projects. You have one that was at 13 million, and then you have another that was at 4 million. So it's a total of 17 million, and you've already paid out a little over 700,000.
So the real deadline is the December 31. I mean, it's got to be done, but
Yes.
given that this is formula based and that while we've set aside the $17 million, it could come in less than that. We really need to get going so that we would know if we have some unallocated funds that we can put towards other worthy projects.
Absolutely. We would want to vet those numbers. The way that the formula is created from Treasury is if you can show 50% or of your time was spent towards it, then you can get to 100%, but we need to see those numbers.
Okay, thank you for
Absolutely.
Thanks.
So then we will jump into our community projects. You had allocated or authorized 8.6 million in community projects, and you have already paid out 7.6 million of that, which means 88% of the total funds have been released. 21 of your 23 projects have been fully obligated by the county. 19 projects have a purchase order at this time. And then we have one project that's not finalized yet. That's just your Edmond Mobile Meals, and it is recently completed its DA contract review. So we will get the requisition in place, and then you guys will see that. Well, BOCC will see that later this month or next month to finalize. This month we have 4 site visits. We completed 2 of them yesterday with City Care and the Care Center. You guys should be really proud of the work that both of these organizations are doing. They were very exciting to be able to tour through and see how they are implementing their use of funds, and then also how they're maintaining their internal controls. Both have done a great job with both of those things. And as a reminder, your City Care organization is helping with low to no barrier housing for individuals with disabilities. And then your Care Center is a really, really comprehensive intake resource center for individuals or children between 2 and 17 who may have been experiencing violence in their home or through other avenues. So they are able to do intakes, forensic interviews, and also do a really great partnership with your local organizations like the Sheriff's Department and other city needs as well. So were both really exciting, and they are making great impacts and are extremely thankful for the funding that they have received. They feel very seen and very heard by the county because of this. So this was the really strong positive intents behind ARPA, and so just wanted you guys to know the wonderful impact that it is having in the community.
So moving forward, whenever you do the site visits, will you let us know? Because I think that would be a great opportunity for our field reps and our community relations directors, and I would love to go and be able just to,
Absolutely
see what they're doing and
They're
get to connect with the community.
Very exciting, and they're really passionate. So being able, it's one thing when you're just communicating over email and things like that. So getting to see their passion about it is really exciting, and definitely we want to include you guys in getting to get a feel for that as well. So absolutely, we'll get you the dates.
I think probably easiest would just to send a calendar invite rather than trying to coordinate with everybody. And if we're able to make it, someone from the office, we'll definitely try to.
Absolutely.
Moving forward. Thank you.
No problem at all. This afternoon, we are meeting with Hope to do their desk review. So if you want to join us, feel free. I will send you the invite. And then we will have a phone call with New Day. It's on Monday, which I believe the county has a holiday for, but we will send that as well. Just little items. We're waiting on a couple of Title VI forms from our subrecipients, so we'll continue to remind and push them to get those submitted to us. And then we did talk a little bit in our individual meetings on Monday about single audits. So of your 23 subrecipients, as you know, 13 of them needed a single audit. 7 have already done a previous single audit. So this was related mostly to their CARES funding. And then you have 6 that will have an upcoming audit. They don't have one yet, so there wasn't one for us to review. Are there any questions about community projects before we jump on to work plan? Nope. Awesome. So just a quick update on work plan. We won't get super in the weeds on this since you guys have already seen it. One of the things just to keep in mind, we are working with the county on the Title VI policy for the countywide policy. It has completed the DA review, and now we need to undergo our own review of the comments that were made and the suggestions that were made, and then we will bring that for each of you to review individually as well, and then make a consensus on here at P&G. And then we've already talked about the sheriff's salary and benefits. Those are kind of our action items to be aware of. And then, as you guys know from infrastructure, we're kind of watching project 10067, which is a portion of the clerk's books, the annex fronts entrance pieces, as we're trying to understand if that project is going to be over budget or not. I believe it's going out for bids this month or next. So it's in the works.
On the ARPA Title VI policy, where are we at on that?
So we've received comments from the DA's office.
Okay.
We
So you
received
already
them
sent
on
it.
Friday,
Okay.
but we have not had an opportunity to do an assessment of our own.
Okay.
And can I get a copy of
Yeah, absolutely. Again, you guys have seen this, so I won't read it to you, but just kind of an overview. We are still on track for prepping the community portal if we decide to have more funds allocated and then open the portal. So we are still tracking that and preparing for that and evaluating some of our own ECs to provide recommendations that was asked by you guys. Something to be aware of as we have been meeting with each of the subrecipients, we are kind of asking for their pulse on what they are seeing as a need in the community, since they're very boots on the ground with your social organizations. And a really large ask that we are seeing is still very much related to the mental health. The way that COVID impacted individuals and students having to stay home, we're just seeing quite an increase in the need for mental health services and beds and things like that. So that will be an EC we will definitely be recommending. And then also in community violence intervention, but specifically on prevention, not on the already something has occurred and how do we treat the outcomes, the preventative measures that would go into community violence. So those are things to be aware of if you decide to reopen the portal. Those are what we are hearing from the community as real needs. And then
In regards to the violence prevention,
Mhm.
are there nonprofits that you have visited with or recommend for that?
I'm sure we could get a list. I know
Okay.
that we heard good things from some of the organizations yesterday on how to be preventative. So
Okay.
we could vet through maybe some good avenues or partnerships that are already occurring that they know are being successful. The ROAR program, specifically within the care center, is a prevention program, and that is aimed at younger children to say and speak up if something is occurring or happening to them. And so that's something that we would maybe recommend a preventative method with, and that you're already funding them. They already have subrecipient agreement, things like that as well. But yes, we can compile lists with community partners. And then importantly to note, your P&E report was submitted for last month as well. So that is all in the portal. And then this is again just our kind of overview of how things are going. We've gone through January. We're here in February, and we've done 2 of our site visits already. Again, 1 today, and then we have 1 on Monday. And then as we get into April again, we will have the portal opening, and then we're excited to also do that ripple mapping. We've talked a little bit about how your organization's impacts are all connected. Without any prompting yesterday, we heard a lot of your organizations talking about how they're working with Northcare or they're working with Remerge, and that is something that we are looking forward to actually seeing come to fruition in connecting the dots, since we already know they're doing it. And they're telling us that without us having to even do the ripple mapping process. So it's going to be really cool to see how all of those pieces come together. Any questions on work plan or timeline? Awesome. So we'll jump into the FAQ updates. Again, these are things that you guys have already seen. All this table is telling us is what the FAQ updates were within. If I put none, it means that it's not a relevant change to the county. And then the summaries at the bottom 2 is that, as you already know, because we had to kind of retract on some of our stuff, is the term obligation will continue to mean orders placed for property and service. So that is very important, as y'all have mentioned, for this 2024 deadline, knowing that you have to have those contracts in place. And then we'll jump into a little bit of detail on the FAQs that are more relevant to the county at this time. Again, you don't have projects right now that are going to be within your surface transportation or the Title I projects, but District 3 does have a project that is using the natural relief or natural disasters relief. So they were just clarifying, and we already know this, that the Treasury was clarifying the way that you can identify these projects. So for providing emergency relief from natural disasters, first you have to identify the natural disaster that has occurred or expected to occur or anticipated to occur. So in Oklahoma County, this is something like your tornadoes that you have regularly. And then secondly, you have to identify the relief that would respond. So that is for your natural disasters. And then jumping into eligible surface transportation projects. Again, at this time, there are not a county project associated with this, but there are 3 pathways, and they've just clarified what those pathways are, with the first one being the supplement of surface transportation projects that are already receiving funds from DOT. Pathway 2 being surface transportation projects not receiving funding from DOT. And then pathway 3 is satisfying the non-federal share requirements for certain transportation projects, and we're paying that TIF 1A loans. Something to be aware of with these projects, if you at a later date decide to use these, the deadline for obligation or for expenditure is sooner than your other projects. So these have to have all funds expended by September 30th of 2026 rather than December 31st. So that would be a date to be aware of, but at this time, not impacting you. And that will also be true for your Title I projects. If something is selected for that, you have the same expenditure deadline of September 30th rather than December 31st. But the Title I projects, again, all this is telling us is kind of how you would make a determination on their eligibility. And then also being aware that using these funds, there are additional requirements you've got to meet within the National Environmental Policy Acts and those pieces as well. So there's just additional steps if we move forward with anything within those. And then just some other quick brief updates. So again, your timelines are a little different with your surface transportation and Title I projects. So your current ARPA projects had funding opportunities going all the way back to the beginning of the pandemic. But for these, you wouldn't be able to use funds except for expenses that occurred beginning on December 29th of 2022. Doesn't really matter at this moment since you're not you don't have a project within those, but if we went back and funded something, we would have to adhere to that timeline as well. Something that they have also clarified within your ability to use the funds to pay interest or principal on outstanding debt. Again, generally, no, you cannot use your ARPA funds to do that, but you could do it through Pathway 3 with your TIP loans if needed. And then going a little bit further into your ability to use the non-federal matching, this first part being relevant to Pathway 3 of your surface transportation projects. Again, they're just telling you you could get a repayment for your TIF 1A loans. And then for Title I projects, you can use the SLF funds to satisfy the non-federal share under the CBD Community Development Block Grant Program. And then lastly, your Buy American provisions. This is only going to be relevant to certain surface transportation projects, which we are not using at this time.
Real quick, just wanted to point out that very interesting point. If you go back on those matching funds, so any of these transportation projects that Nikki may be applying for that require a match, you can use your ARPA funds for that match, is what this it lists there.
Okay, thank you, Jamie.
All right, and then lastly, and we have talked about this before as well, is your disposition requirement. So this is when you buy equipment or property that this becomes relevant. So Treasury is clarifying that recipients must follow the applicable provisions from uniform guidance regarding the property standards, which we already were aware of, and that recipients may, during the period of performance, use the property or supplies for items purchased with SLFRF funds for purposes other than the original intended use, as long as it is also another eligible requirement. Going further down, changing the use of an asset to an ineligible use or selling the asset prior to the end of period of performance, that is when these disposition rules kick in, and then you have to follow the disposition procedures laid out in uniform guidance. With the items such as changing for property, the period of performance to use property or supplies used for Title I projects, then you have to ensure that the property and supplies complies with Treasury's guidance for the National Environmental Policy Act and other environmental requirements if you're doing a disposition of that as well. And then for surface transportation projects under Pathway 1 and Pathway 3, projects must use the disposition requirements provided by DOT pursuant to the administration of that specific project. And then lastly, under Pathway 2, for the purposes for which, for the purposes other than the purpose of which it was purchased or improved upon, you can again use these as long as it is consistent with another eligible use. So a lot of this is not a significant change since we are not using surface transportation at this time or Title I, and the county does have a disposition policy already in place. But just something to be aware of, there is additional clarity in how to go about making sure that you adhere to some of the DOT requirements when necessary, and then the environmental requirements as well. So that will walk us through updates on FAQ and then our total program report for today. Yeah.
And since you asked about the Title VI policy, what we got great guidance on is that you guys will need one Title VI coordinator across all of your federal grants. So not one of the proposals was for it to be a Title VI coordinator just for ARPA. Since you guys get lots of federal money, you need one appointed Title VI coordinator for all your federal grants. And that person needs to be the one that's going to do the Title VI investigation. It doesn't need to go through the DA to do the investigation. And then they will send that to the DA, but it needs to be separate of who will take in all of your Title VI complaints for any federal fund and do the investigation. So we'll work with you on how we go about appointing and putting that into policy. Absolutely.
on to number 6?
Have you received that?
You, okay, you make a motion?
And I need 1 minute.
Okay, yeah. Want a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. That's good. You need to reopen anything?
No.
Sure. Okay. Okay. Number 6 is discussion and possible action regarding the policy for allocation of remaining unobligated funds to meet the December 31st, 2024 obligation deadline.
So again, this is the item we wanted to use to discuss the now $5.7 million that are remaining. We do have item 7 that would allow you to split those funds 3 ways if you would rather go about allocation in that mechanism. I do think that that is the more preferred will of this board, but this item will allow us to discuss other avenues of obligating those funds, leaving the funds where they're at, or obligating just a portion of those as well.
Joe, do you want to take it? Move it down? Or just no action on 6?
No action.
Okay, we'll take no action on 6 and move to 7, which is discussion and possible action to split a portion of unobligated funds evenly between 3 districts.
And those funds that we're discussing are the 3 million rollback.
So in total, you have 5.7
5.7.
having the 3 million rolled back. But if you wanted to only move forward with the splitting of 3 million evenly, each district getting $1 million, that would be fine, and you would leave 2.7 in your reserve, or you can allocate the full amount completely at the will of the board, but could easily at this time move the 3 million evenly across each of your offices.
Okay, and then splitting them evenly means that we would be able to use them for community grants or other infrastructure projects.
Yeah, district
districts,
initiatives.
Initiatives,
Mhm.
okay. I finally get to make a motion. Thoughts on this too?
I mean, we're definitely for splitting it evenly 3 ways.
Okay.
Whether that's just the 3 million or the 5.7 million, see what your guys' thoughts are.
You've been asking for this for a long time, Joe. So
Yep.
I don't want to steal your thunder.
I'll move that we recommend the 5.7 be divided 3 ways. The unobligated funds currently estimated to be $5.7 million be divided evenly amongst 3 districts
Okay.
for allocation for community or other projects within the districts.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yay.
Okay, now, can we go back to item 6?
Sure. Yes.
Now that we've done this, or the BOCC
Mhm.
may do this, how quickly do we need to come up with the process? We had talked previously about opening the portal back up to some potential new projects, or going back and re-examining those that have already been submitted and met the criteria.
I think we can comfortably have the portal open in April.
Okay, all right, so we have a little bit of time then. Okay, thank you, that was all.
So now we're going to recess into executive session.
Move recess.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
to return back to regular session. I'd like to make a motion to return back into regular session.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. And then in regards to number 9, our action is to proceed as discussed, and I'll make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Nope. Okay. Sorry. My motion buttons.
I can
We're just
second
looking
it.
for a second. Okay. Aye.
Aye.
Any citizen participation? Seeing none. Board comments? None. New business? None. I have a motion to adjourn.
I'll motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.